Have you ever wondered why your mind won't stop even when you're exhausted? Even when you're lying in bed, eyes closed, body still, your thoughts keep spinning, replaying the day, rehearsing tomorrow, criticizing the past, questioning the future. It never seems to rest, and maybe, like most people, you've started to believe that this voice in your head is you, that the thinker is the self, that the noise is your identity. But what if it isn't? What if the mind is just a tool and you've forgotten you're the one holding it? What if the constant stream of thoughts, judgments, fears, and fantasies isn't who you are at all? What if you've spent your whole life listening, but never stopped to ask who is listening? Because there's something deeper than the thoughts, something quieter than the mind, something older than the stories. It's been with you in every moment. Before the first memory, before the first belief, before the first fear. It doesn't speak in words, it doesn't argue or analyze, it simply is. And it's watching. It's been watching all along. In today's journey, we're not going to fix the mind. We're going to step behind it. We're going to return to what was here before thought even began. We're going to remember the part of you that doesn't need to think in order to know. Are you ready? Let's begin. Let's slow things down. Let's take a breath together and another. Not to fix anything, but to feel what's here. Because in this moment, something important is happening. The mind is listening. It's waiting. Maybe it's already starting to label this moment, to evaluate, to analyze, to judge. That's what it does. The mind is like a commentator, always narrating life, whether you ask it to or not. But here's the question we rarely ask. Is the narrator actually you, or is it just a habit you've mistaken for yourself? You see, the mind is fast. It's efficient. It learned early on how to protect you. It memorized what hurt you. It remembered what pleased others. It created stories to help you feel safe, feel seen, feel in control. But over time, those stories started running without your permission. Now, the moment something happens, the mind jumps in with a script. This always happens to me. They're going to leave. I need to do more. I'll never be enough. And because those thoughts come in your own voice, you believe them. You don't just hear the thought. You become it. You act from it. React from it. Shape your life around it. But here's the truth that changes everything. The mind is not the master. It was never meant to lead. It was meant to serve, to help you remember things, to solve problems, to make sense of the external world. But it was never meant to define who you are. You are not the thought that says, I'm a failure. You are the one who hears that thought. You are not the judgment that says, she's better than me. You are the one who notices that comparison arise. Thoughts come and go. But the awareness that sees them, that stays. That's you. And once you begin to see this clearly, everything shifts. You stop clinging to the content of your mind. You stop trying to fight every thought. You stop needing the answers right away. Instead, you start to notice this is just the mind doing what it's always done. And in that noticing, in that gentle, compassionate distance, you reclaim your peace. You see the mind not as an enemy, but as a well-meaning servant that's forgotten its place. It's like a dog that's been barking for years, thinking it's in charge of the house. But once you gently remind it, thank you, I hear you, but I'm not following you right now, it starts to quiet down. It doesn't disappear, but it softens. It starts to trust you again because you're no longer letting it run wild. You're leading from somewhere deeper. That deeper place It doesn't speak in sentences. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It watches. It waits. And it's been there all along. In every silent moment, in every breath between thoughts, in every glance at the sky that made you feel infinite for no reason at all. That's who you are, not the mind that wants to explain everything, not the voice that rehearses, rewinds, and rushes, but the open space behind it, still present, unmoved. And from that space, you can relate to the mind differently. You can watch a negative thought rise and not attach to it. You can hear the old story resurface and smile at it. You can feel the fear trying to protect you and thank it without obeying it. This is not spiritual bypassing. It's not ignoring the mind. It's not pushing it away. It's relating to it with clarity, with kindness, with awareness. You start to treat it like a child who's scared, not like a truth you must obey. And slowly, thought by thought, you begin to unblend from it. You begin to see that you are not inside the mind. The mind is inside you. It rises in your awareness, just like a sound, a sensation, a dream. Temporary, shifting, not solid. And you, the awareness holding it, remain untouched. That's where your freedom lives. Not in controlling the mind, but in seeing through its illusion of control. Not in silencing it forever, but in remembering moment after moment who's actually in charge. Not with force, but with stillness, with breath, with presence. So the next time your mind speaks loudly, urgently, convincingly, pause. Feel your feet. Feel your breath. Feel the awareness that's here, even before the next thought arrives. And ask yourself, am I the voice or am I the one who hears it? Pause for a moment and imagine this. You're walking through a familiar street. Someone looks at you and doesn't smile. Instantly, your mind whispers, did I do something wrong? Maybe they're upset. Maybe I'm being judged. You don't question it. It feels automatic. It feels true. But here's the thing, where did that thought come from? Did you choose to think it? Or did it happen like an old reflex, rising before you even noticed? Most of us believe we're thinking freely, but in reality, much of what we call thinking is conditioning, layers upon layers of past impressions stored in the mind like grooves in a record. Every experience you've ever had, every praise, every rejection, every moment you felt loved or ignored, left a trace. And those traces shape how your mind interprets the world now. They become filters, and you wear them without even realizing. When someone speaks firmly, your mind might say, I'm being attacked. Not because you're in danger now, but because years ago someone's anger felt unsafe. When you're left out of a group message, your mind might whisper, they don't want me. Not because of what's happening today, but because of a childhood wound that still echoes in silence. This is how patterns form. They begin as protection. They begin as meaning-making in moments where you needed to understand or survive. But over time, they become automatic. You start reacting, not to this moment, but to every moment that felt like it. You start assuming the worst, not because it's true, but because the mind would rather predict pain than risk being caught off guard. It's not your fault. The mind believes it's helping. But here's the cost. You stop seeing clearly. You don't meet the moment as it is. You meet it as the past, dressed up in new clothes. You carry old fear into new relationships. You bring past failure into present possibility. You turn neutral experiences into familiar suffering. And the most heartbreaking part, you think it's you. You think these thoughts reflect something real. You think these fears mean you're broken. You think the pattern is your identity. But it's not. It's just a program. A well-rehearsed loop, a conditioned script that keeps replaying because it hasn't been questioned. But once you do begin to question it, everything changes. You notice the voice in your head saying, they're going to leave. And instead of believing it, you pause. You ask, is this the truth or is this a pattern? You notice the thought, I always mess this up. And you respond, always? Or is that just the voice of an old fear trying to protect me? You start to bring awareness to the pattern, not to fight it, but to see it. Because seeing is the beginning of freedom. The moment you become the observer, the moment you stop identifying with the thought, it begins to lose its grip. It becomes just another ripple in the mind. Not a command you must follow, not a truth you must carry, just a ripple, rising and falling, appearing in awareness, then fading into silence. You don't have to destroy the patterns. You don't have to erase your history. You just have to recognize what's here now and what's being projected from the past. And as you keep returning to that clarity, something powerful begins to emerge. A new pattern. One of presence, one of awareness, one of choice. Instead of reacting, you respond. Instead of spiraling, you breathe. Instead of collapsing into old wounds, you stand in the truth of this moment where nothing is actually wrong, where you are not broken, where you are not who the thoughts say you are. You are the space they rise in. You are the witness. You are the awareness untouched by all conditioning. And from this awareness, you begin to repattern the mind, not by force, but by meeting every conditioned thought with presence. Every I'm not enough with I see you, but I am not you. Every this is dangerous with let's check if that's true. Every spiral with a breath, every fear with compassion, every habit with a little more light. And slowly, the grooves change. Not because the mind has stopped working, but because you're no longer asleep inside it. You're awake, you're here. And that changes everything. What if the person you think you are isn't actually you? Not in some abstract or philosophical way, but right here, right now. In the most practical sense, what if the you you've been defending, improving, and protecting is just a character, a collection of thoughts, a bundle of stories, a carefully constructed idea built over time and held together by habit? You see, identity feels solid. It feels like something you can point to. I'm a quiet person. I'm always overthinking. I'm bad at relationships. I'm the type who needs control. But pause for a moment and ask yourself this. Were you born with those beliefs, or did they become part of you? After being repeated for so long, they started to feel like the truth. The truth is, you weren't born with a story. You didn't come into the world saying, I'm not enough. I have to earn love. I must prove myself. Those came later. They came from the world around you, from what you were told, from how people responded to your presence, from the way others treated your emotions. And slowly, the story formed. You put on the mask of what was safe. You learned to perform what was acceptable. You silenced what felt too much, or not enough, or too vulnerable to share. And you built a self, not to deceive anyone, but to survive, to belong. But the problem isn't that you built a self. The problem is that you forgot It was never really you. You forgot that behind the name, the habits, the preferences, there is something unshaped, something untouched, something real. The identity you carry is not a reflection of your essence. It's a reflection of your conditioning. And when you confuse the two, suffering begins. You start defending the mask as if it's your face. You start fearing change because you've anchored your worth to an idea of who you are. You start clinging to roles, to relationships, to achievements, because without them you're not sure what's left. But there is something left. There's always something left. In fact, it's the only thing that's ever truly been here. Your awareness, the presence that never changes, even as everything else does. Think about it. Your body has changed. Your thoughts have changed. Your preferences, your relationships, your goals, all of it has shifted. But something has remained. Something has been here through it all. The same awareness that watched you as a child is watching you now. It doesn't need a name, it doesn't need an identity, and that awareness is your true self, not the story, not the costume, not the past, but the open field in which all experience rises and falls. When you begin to see through the illusion of identity, a great unburdening happens. You realize you don't have to defend who you are anymore. You don't have to keep proving, earning, or performing. You can simply be. You can let go of the stories that say, this is just how I am, and start asking, is that really true? Or is it just familiar? You can notice when a label starts to tighten around you. I'm anxious, I'm broken, I'm stuck. And instead of agreeing, you ask, who is noticing this thought? That question alone opens a doorway out of the mind and into awareness. Because the one who sees the identity is not the identity. The one who watches the pattern is not the pattern. The one who holds the fear is not afraid. And once you know this, once you really feel it in your bones, the whole story starts to loosen. You stop needing to get it all right. You stop needing to win the approval of others. You stop being so afraid of change because you realize you were never the thing that changes. You were always the space it all moved through. So who are you without the old name? Who are you when you stop playing the role? Who are you when there's nothing left to hold on to but breath and presence and the vast quiet now? You are not the illusion, you are not the label, you are not the idea. You are the awareness in which the illusion appeared. And when you remember that, when you rest in that, there's nothing left to fix. There's only peace. Not because life is perfect, but because you are no longer confusing yourself with the mask. And in that space of freedom, something softer emerges, a new way of being, not from identity, but from truth, not from habit, but from presence, not from fear, but from love. You are not what the world told you to be. You are what you've always been before the world began speaking, and that is more than enough. There's a place inside you that's never moved. It's not your mind, not your personality, not even the voice that's been narrating your entire life. It's something deeper, quieter, older than time, and closer than breath. It doesn't think. It doesn't analyze. It doesn't need to fix or achieve or perform. It simply sees. That seeing, that witnessing awareness has been with you since the very beginning. Before you had a name, before you knew what fear was, before you were taught how to be a someone, And yet somewhere along the way you drifted from it. You were told who to be, how to act, what success looked like, what emotions were okay and which ones weren't. You learned to judge yourself, to strive, to seek approval, to fit into a world that rewards performance over presence. And slowly the noise began to drown out the silence. The story became louder than the stillness. The labels felt more real than the essence. The mind became the ruler, and the awareness faded into the background. But it never left. It was always here, watching, waiting, patient. Every time you paused and forgot to think, every time you laughed without reason, every time you stared at the sky and felt infinite, that was it. That was you. Not the character, not the commentary, but the calm, unchanging field of awareness that holds it all. And now you're being invited back, not as a new idea, not as a spiritual belief, but as a direct experience, one that you can feel right now without needing anything to change. So let's begin here. Right now, let everything soften. Let the shoulders drop. Let the breath be natural. Let the thoughts come and go without grabbing them. Don't push anything away. Don't reach for anything new. Just allow. Notice what's here beneath the thinking, beneath the identity, beneath the tension, beneath the search. There's a stillness, a spaciousness, a gentle presence, wide and open and alive. That's you. Not the version of you that tries to be enlightened. Not the one that's working so hard to get it right, but the one who has been watching it all silently, lovingly, all along. And when you rest here, truly rest, something inside you remembers. It remembers that awareness doesn't come and go. It's not created through effort. It's not accessed by achieving silence. It's already here. It's the canvas upon which all thoughts are painted. It's the screen on which the movie of your life plays. And unlike the movie, it never changes. Your roles may change. Your feelings may change. Your entire world may shift. But the awareness watching it all, still, unmoved, unstained, unshaken. And the more you recognize this, not as a belief but as a felt experience, the less you cling to what's passing. You stop fighting your thoughts. You stop fearing your emotions. You stop chasing the next moment because you realize you're already home, right here, right now, without needing to add anything. You don't need to earn stillness. You don't need to deserve peace. You are peace when you stop pretending to be what you're not. And that's what this path is really about. Not becoming something better, not fixing yourself, not reaching some perfect state, but remembering, returning again and again to the awareness that was never missing. You can do this in the simplest moments. Washing the dishes, sitting in traffic, watching the rain fall on a window. You don't have to escape life to find presence. You just have to stop leaving yourself. Every time you notice the mind pulling you into the past, you gently return. Every time it races toward the future, you gently return. And over time, this returning becomes a rhythm, a sacred movement from forgetting to remembering, from identification to witnessing, from contraction to openness. And eventually, the returning stops being effort. It becomes your resting place, your natural home. And from that home, you begin to live differently, not reacting from the story, but responding from presence, not needing to prove anything, but moving from clarity, not looking for peace, but embodying it. You become like the sky holding clouds and storms and sunlight alike, without trying to change any of it, because you know You are not the weather, you are the awareness the weather appears in. And that realization, simple as it sounds, can transform your entire life. Not by adding more, but by returning to what was always here. If something inside you feels quieter now, if even for a moment you tasted the stillness that doesn't need fixing, then you're not imagining it. That was real. That was you before the stories, before the roles, before the mind took over. And now that you've touched it, you can return anytime. You don't need a perfect moment. You don't need to wait until the chaos ends. You can return in the middle of it all. Because awareness isn't hiding, it's never left. And if this practice helped you remember, helped you breathe a little deeper, helped you feel a little more like